Steve, many thanks. We're going to return now to the story that's set to dominate the news bulletins over the next few hours, maybe even days. That series of tornadoes that have hit Oklahoma City. Now, listening to local Oklahoma television, who were interviewing a witness. The witness said that they saw people, or the witnesses are, pulling the kids out of one of the schools that was hit. At least 2 schools were destroyed, one of them a kindergarten. And we're not sure of the condition of the children, but there were children in the building at the time, hadn't managed to get to shelter. The pictures you're looking at now are live from Oklahoma City. I'm not entirely sure what we're looking at here because this is being shot from a news agency helicopter, but certainly there are people there frantically searching through the rubble of what once was a building. Let's get some expert opinion now from Jeff Masters, who's Director of Meteorology at the Weather Underground. He's on the line from Ann Arbor in Michigan. Jeff, it looks like, this was a massive storm.
That's right. This is probably going to end up being one of the most destructive tornadoes in world history. I would expect it's going to rank perhaps as the second most destructive behind the $2.8 billion tornado that hit Joplin, Missouri back in 2011. It's interesting to note that Moore, Oklahoma, got hit in 1999 by an EF-5 tornado, a top-end tornado, and the damage from this tornado is even more extensive than that one, and that tornado ranked as the 4th most damaging tornado in world history with $1.4 billion in damage.
Why was this tornado so destructive, Jeff? Is it just pot luck that it happened to strike in a populated area, or is there some meteorological reason for it? The tornado season this year had got off to a late start because of the cold spring.
That's right. It's mostly bad luck. We had a tornado yesterday that looked like it was about as strong as this one, but that tornado only killed 2 people because it hit a relatively unpopulated area. But whenever you get one of these 1 or 2 kilometer wide tornadoes that does happen to move over a highly populated area, then you're going to start adding up the damages in the billions, and that's going to be the price tag of this tornado.
And Jeff, while I've got a real meteorologist on here, I want to ask you, for the benefit of our international viewers who maybe don't understand why this part of the United States is hit by this kind of the weather, why they call it Tornado Alley. What is it about the weather systems in this part of the world that bring these devastating storms at this time of the year?
That's right. The conditions needed to get a tornado are relatively rare, and they happen more often in the Midwestern U.S. than any other part of the world. In fact, the city that got hit today, Moore, is part of Oklahoma City, which has been hit over 100 times over the past 100 or so years, more than any other city in the world. And what you need to get a tornado is you have to have very warm, moist air near the surface, and there's a good supply of that comes up from the Gulf of Mexico from the south. And you have to have that warm, moist air meet up with some very cold, dry air from a continental source. Well, Canada supplies that in great abundance. And not only that, but you need another air mass, a kind of a drier air mass that interacts with these two to kind of put a lid on the thunderstorms that develop for a while and kind of traps the energy beneath it. And then when the energy finally does blow through that lid, then it can make these supercell thunderstorms. And we get that because of the dry air from the American Southwest that moves in. So everything just conspires together just right or just wrong, depending on your point of view, to create tornadoes in the Midwest U.S.
All right. You talked about the Moore, Oklahoma tornado in 1999, which killed, 36 people, did an enormous amount of damage in financial terms. This looks to have damaged a much bigger area. Of course, it's too early to say, Jeff, to put a figure on it in terms of human casualties or the financial cost of the damage. But where do you think this ranks in the severity of storms?
Yeah, it's probably going to end up being a $2 to $3 billion tornado, ranking as either the second or possibly even the most damaging tornado in history, because it is about twice as big an area affected as the 1999 Moore tornado. And it did hit during the middle of the day when, there are a lot of businesses are open, and unfortunately the death toll might be rather high because of that.
Jeff, many thanks indeed for sharing your expertise. Really appreciate it. That's the Director of Meteorology at the Weather Underground, Jeff Masters, there on the line from Ann Arbor in Michigan. Just to remind you then that These tornadoes, we don't know how many of them actually touched down here, but certainly there was one tornado that's done an enormous amount of damage to this suburb of Oklahoma City. Here it was on the ground at least an hour ago, 90 minutes or so ago. Set off fires, as you can see, as it destroyed buildings and ruptured gas pipes, destroyed entire neighborhoods. We understand that it was on the ground for at least an hour, wreaking that destruction across that huge area. We're still waiting for word on casualty figures, anyone hurt or killed by this. As Jeff was saying, 2 people were killed in a storm yesterday, which hit a relatively unpopulated area. This, though, as you can see, the suburb of a major city, a lot of which has been completely flattened by this devastating storm. We will continue to keep across developments from Oklahoma City. We'll bring them to you as soon as we know more here at Al Jazeera.